What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioners Clubhouse and the LCC Network for Week 7 of the 2021 offseason. We're almost 2 months into this. I can't believe it. And it's hard to imagine, really, football season just ended just like 2 weeks ago. So for us, we're 2 months into our offseason, but NFL literally just got into it. Anyways, I've got Jordan on the show with me like always, but we've got a little twist for you. We are actually working on getting at least this episode, hopefully if everything goes well, onto Spotify or some other kind of audio source out there with YouTube. So those that want to listen to a true podcast can do that, or if you want to watch our traditional YouTube videos, then you can do that as well. What's going on, Jordan?
What's up? How are you tonight?
I'm doing
Um,
fine.
yeah, I'm not too confident at all that this is going to work to be able to get it to Spotify, but I'm going to try my best for all you guys.
Yeah, and like even if it's not Spotify, if it's some sort of audio, it's some kind of outlet where you normally get your podcast from. We're trying our best. It's a little tricky because essentially, the way we normally do the podcast is totally different than the way you would do it for a traditional actual podcast. But anyways, I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it all and bore everyone to death. We have got some news and notes to start off, and then after that, we've got a fun little game we're playing for the rest of the show called Dynasty Play, which we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. Jordan, you want to do our rundown of news and notes?
Sure, I will. And so this week's news and notes for the LCC news and notes, just a quick reminder, the league payment dues are March 21st this year, so you got a little over a month to get that in and start thinking about it. But so March 21st, and as soon as everybody pays that up, it could be beforehand. Anybody in the league can start off-season trading. But and then the last day, if anyone wants to change their team name in the league, is March 28th. I know we already have one player doing that, which is going to be Matt. So if anyone else needs to do it, you have till March 28th to notify us on what you want. And that's about it for the league news. I guess the big NFL news of the day is just earlier this afternoon, Carson Wentz got traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a third round pick this year and a second round pick next year that is conditional. The second round pick next season can turn into a first round pick if Carson Wentz plays 75% of snaps, or 70% of snaps, and the Colts make the playoffs. So another move around the league that is bound to have some type of impact in our fantasy league, especially um, thinking about how stretched out quarterback is some weeks when you're looking for a replacement for your starter or things like that. So yeah, that's about it for the news and notes this week.
Cool. I mean, when I first saw that Carson Wentz trade, I thought it was just a straight up third round pick, and I was like, that just does not seem right. Like, that seems really cheap. Like,
Yeah, that would have been really cheap. And
even if you
even,
don't like Carson Wentz, like he's definitely worth that pick. You know, like
yeah, I mean, he's still young. He's still got some talent. He's going to have way more weapons than he had ever in Philly, in my opinion.
yeah,
So we'll see how that goes. I know we'll, little insider, we'll talk about him a little later, so I don't want to say too much.
yeah. No, he's a guy that'll be interesting to watch. So let's. We don't have any sound drops, by the way, because this is our first time testing this method out with recording audio, at least. So we want to keep it simple, stupid here. Don't want to overcomplicate things. If we can, we'll try to get it maybe in future episodes if we can figure out a way. But for this, at least, Jordan is actually gonna sing us a song that he's been working on for a week. No, I'm just kidding.
This is my rendition of Happy Birthday.
Happy birthday. No, you're gonna like "Kissed by an Angel," I think was what you were gonna sing.
Yeah.
No, but anyways, dynasty play is where we're going with this, and is pretty much the entire episode is what this is about. We're going to go through all 6 main positions in the league: quarterback, running back, receiver slash tight end, defensive line, linebacker, and defensive back. And we're going to break down these positions, not entirely, but we're going to pick 3 players from each position and say which guy do we like better for a dynasty or keeper format. So a guy you're thinking long term of, where do you see them? Which one of these 3 do you like better? And maybe we'll even discuss like, if there's a guy we like more in the short term game. We'll look at that too. But uh, some people, even in a dynasty league I've played with, they are the type of person that they're essentially they're not even thinking really dynasty. They're thinking, how can I get guys that can win me a game now? And there's nothing wrong with that philosophy. Um, they both work. I've seen it work in multiple different leagues and multiple different formats. So everyone has their own strategy in fantasy football. But me personally, I'm more of a long term person. I'm not necessarily looking at the the issue right in front of me. I'm thinking, 2-3 years down the road, in a keeper format at least. So let's kick this off, Jordan. We're going with quarterbacks first,
All right. You want
and
me you want me to say the matchups and then you can say a little bit what they accomplished
yeah, I can do
this
that.
past season and then we can discuss.
And you guys feel free to leave a comment in the comments section about maybe who do you like more and why do you
Yeah.
like them more, or if you have another good comparison, definitely let us know. I'd love to answer that.
Yeah, or why were we wrong,
Yeah.
like if you want to yell at us, yell at us. So starting off, we're gonna do a quarterback dynasty battle to see who you prefer to keep around. And the reason we picked these quarterbacks we're about to pick, the 3 we picked are the 3 that have recently all been on the QB carousel and moved on to new teams. So starting off, we have Mr. Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts now, Mr. Matthew Stafford with the LA Rams, and Mr. Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions.
And to put the rankings wise where they finished in 2020, in our league at least, and probably most leagues too, Matthew Stafford was quarterback 15, Jared Goff was QB 18, and Carson Wentz was QB 23. And that's not average, right? So with injuries and stuff, some guys may have finished better, especially Carson Wentz. But in overall points, Stafford was 15 with not the Rams, the Lions. Sorry, Jared Goff was 18 again, and Carson Wentz was 23. Now, in terms of average, that changes the game up a little bit. Just painting the big picture here for everyone, just to understand kind of maybe where we're coming from with some of our choices. But Carson Wentz, if I can find him here, he is number 27, so even worse in his overall ranking. Matthew Stafford was 25, and Jared Goff was 23. So realistically, their averages weren't that great for most league formats. In ours, we have 24 teams in one player pool, so most of those guys were at least worth rostering multiple weeks, if not most of the season. So here we go, Jordan. Who are you taking and why?
I'm gonna actually. I don't think it'll be much of a surprise to most people, but I'm gonna roll with Matthew Stafford, and the reason is I just like what the Rams have going on offense. I think they have elite weapons at the wide receiver position. They have a nice up and comer in a PPR game in Cam Akers, and a nice tight end too. So I just feel like he could slip into LA and put up, if not a great team season, a great statistical season with the weapons he had. It was just a shame that Jared Goff couldn't do more with the likes of Robert Woods and Cooper Cup. But so I'm gonna say Matthew Stafford, and I guess I'll do it of like a ranking. Next, I would go Carson Wentz, and I believe he could get back into form from the first year he started. I mean, he goes to the Colts. They have a few nice outside weapons, a really strong offensive line and run game. And Doug Peterson, or it's not Doug Peter, Frank Reich, excuse me, was the offense coordinator when Carson Wentz had his best run as a Philadelphia Eagle. So maybe that helps rejuvenate him and help him kick it back into gear next year. But and then I would go Jared Goff. So my rankings out of three quarterbacks would be Stafford, Wentz, and Goff. So what do you got to add to that?
For me, if I'm thinking short term, I definitely like Stafford more. I mean, the weapons this is the best set of weapons I think Stafford may have ever had in terms of receiving core going to the Rams. Even with Calvin Johnson when he was in Detroit, I don't think they had a full house of receiver kind of like they do in LA at the moment. So I love Stafford going into 2021 at the moment. You know, before all the crazy offseason free agency moves happen and the NFL draft, right now I really like Matthew Stafford for 2021. Now, in a dynasty or keeper format though, if I'm thinking long term, I'm actually leaning towards Wentz. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, but I really like the position he's at with the Colts. They've got an amazing defense. I think it's better than any defense that's been in Philadelphia while he was there, at least. And on top of that, I think they've got, like we talked about it before we started, I just feel like Wentz, you know, he's got better weapons now in Indianapolis compared to what he had in Philadelphia. I really think Wentz, if he can stay healthy, I know it's a big if at times, but if Wentz can stay healthy, I think he could be a legitimate quarterback there in Indianapolis for the Colts.
Yeah, I totally
And for
agree with
fantasy
that.
purposes.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, my Stafford pick was more for like looking for a quarterback to go to the championship with next year, but I totally agree with you. If you're maybe looking for a quarterback to have maybe the next 3 seasons, I there isn't much argument from me on your Carson Wentz call.
Yeah. Carson Wentz currently is rostered by the Steel Curtain. Matthew Stafford is currently rostered by Michael, Team Michael, that is. And Jared Goff is currently rostered by Dirty Mike and the boys. I doubt any of those guys are going to be kept. So it's going to make it interesting in the fact that they could easily be late round picks and pay off really well for someone for this coming year. I mean, Jared Goff, I actually will say is probably my least favorite, and I really don't like him now that he's in Detroit. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like he had everything going for him with the
yeah.
Rams, and he still
Like
couldn't be a legitimate
I
quarterback.
mentioned it too. If he wasn't succeeding with the offense he had in LA, then I don't see much hope for him in Detroit.
Yeah, no, definitely the guy left out here, but among these three. Uh, Anything to add before we move on to running backs?
No, that seems good. I'll introduce the running backs and then you can give a little background. So, in the running back position, we have Miles Gaskin of the Miami Dolphins, Austin Eckler of the San Diego, or excuse me, where are they at now? Chargers.
No,
Yeah,
they're in LA. Yeah,
yeah, LA Chargers. I was about to call them San Diego.
I know, right?
And
They thought they
then
should stay. They should never have moved. That was
yeah,
dumb.
it just it's still in my heart. And then you have Ronald Jones of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champs. So yeah, you want to kick us off with that?
Mm. Yeah, this is interesting because Ronald Jones, in terms of points for, was the best of these three at least. He was RB16 in our league in a PPR format that also awards 1 point per first down, receiving or rushing, that is. And Austin Eckler was running back 27. He definitely banged up though, and so you can't really hold that against him. And Miles Gaskin, the same, was very banged up throughout the season. So it's interesting because Rojo really, Ronald Jones, for those that don't know, he was out for like 2 weeks the entire regular season. And they bring in Leonard Fournette, and he's still able to finish among the top 16 running backs with Fournette there. not that Fournette was like the X factor during the Tampa regular season, but he definitely, took carries away from him. And I think Leonard Fournette's performance at the end of the season may have proved that he should stay around in Tampa a little bit longer, at least, if not as, a guy that splits time, or at least as a guy who's going to come in there and crack skulls, because he can do that for you. And he proved it throughout the postseason, I felt like. But in terms of average, if it's going to mix everything up here a little bit, Ronald Jones, for those that don't know, Ronald Jones finished. Sorry, I got to scroll a little bit. As RB 23, averaging 23.3 points in our league, which is very meh in our high scoring format. Myles Gaskin averaged 26.4, which put him at RB 15 among average points. And then Os Eckler averaged 13 among running backs with 26.8. So I think with the limited window that we saw in 2021, Austin Eckler and Gaskins were extremely exciting. I mean, I loved them both when they were on the field. They were a lot of fun to watch. Ronald Jones was fun to watch too, but again, you're getting carries taken away from you. And even when Ronald Jones was clearly the better back in some games, he still wasn't on the field all the time when he should have been, I felt like. So I don't know. For me, Jordan, on this one,
It's going to be a real determination is going to be if Fournette's back in town or not.
that's a big factor because if he's not, Ronald Jones is easily my favorite back here. Easily.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling he will be back. I just got this feeling. So, with that said, I'm just going to assume things stay the same and Ronald Jones splits carries again. I really like, at the moment, again, without free agency moves and all that garbage, I like Myles Gaskin a lot in Miami
I got you.
for dynasty purposes.
Okay. And who would your number two be in that list?
Number 2 would have to be Austin Eckler in a PPR format. I mean, the dude just gets catches. I mean, and the thing is, though, he really got a ton of points this year from running the football, which was pretty exciting. Go look at Myles Gaskin's stats, and you'll see most games he was averaging 4 to 5 receptions a game with about 30 yards receiving, that is, and he would have anywhere between 40 to like 90 rushing yards on the game on top of that. So with that young team, I think Gaskin, there's a lot of room for him to develop there. I get it. There's not much invested in him. They could let him go like that, and he could be a free agent because he was a 7th round pick for the Dolphins a couple years, like 2 years ago, I want to say. But I don't know. I would guess my number 2 would probably be Austin Eckler. Number 3 would be Rojo. But that switches on a dime if Rojo is the number 1 guy in Tampa this year, which we'll have to wait and see. We have no idea of knowing for sure.
Yeah. So I think mine would be my number 1 pick. There would be Austin Eckler. Being healthy with the Chargers, I would preface that with being healthy. Uh, like you said, just when PPR comes into play, I love him, and I just think he's gonna have a more of a connection with Justin Herbert, who won the Rookie of the Year, and only up for him. So I think with the evolution of that offense, he's going to see a lot of work and be a fantasy machine at least. And then I'm like you, I'm a fan of Myles Gaskin too, so I'll put him as my second, and Ronald Jones is my third.
Yeah, and Gaskin, Austin Eckler, just a freak. He's a poor man's Christian McCaffrey, honestly, or Alvin Kamara,
Yeah,
because
the number 1 thing is health with him. If he's
yeah,
healthy, I think he'll easily be the top back out of those 3,
yeah, and he's still young. He's 25 years old. I'm looking at it
especially with a
now.
competent quarterback.
Yes, and he's got that. I think I think the Chargers actually have a really good quarterback among them, and Austin Eckler should be very involved for the passing game going forward.
All right.
Let's get her going. We're going to receivers and tight ends.
All right. For receivers, we got pretty much a trio of rookie receivers from last year. Um, so picking our favorite one going into their sophomore campaign, but we have uh, Chase Claypool of the Pittsburgh Steelers, CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, and T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals.
All right. For those that don't know, and again, a PPR format where we award for first downs for receiving or rushing. Chase Claypool was wide receiver 21, CeeDee Lamb wide receiver 25, and T. Higgins wide receiver 29. And you're probably asking yourself, especially if you're not in this league, why the hell are they talking about these three rookies who weren't even actual wide receiver ones? Well, in our league, Chase Claypool was a wide receiver one because he was among the top 24, and he had a good year. I mean, he had a really good year, and I felt like Pittsburgh's offense was not pretty, to say the least, at times last year, and he was the guy, without a doubt. Um, and Jordan, this class reminds me somewhat of that class where we had AJ Green and Mike Evans and those guys come into the NFL, and they just balled out for a good 4 or 5 years or so. It felt like.
Oh, yeah, this last wide receiver class was absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, seriously, we're not even talking about Justin Jefferson. I didn't even include him because I didn't think it was really fair. I think he truly
Oh, yeah.
proved he was the guy of
You
that
have
draft
Justin
class.
Jefferson. You have Michael Pittman in Indianapolis. I mean,
Yeah,
there were quite a few that put on a show this year. Brandon Ayuk.
yeah. I think for me, at least, when I compare Chase Claypool, CeeDee Lamb, and T. Higgins, I look at the quarterback situation over the next couple years, and it does not look pretty for Pittsburgh and Chase Claypool, I feel like. Whereas CeeDee Lamb, I feel... Would Dallas really get rid of Dak Prescott? I ask myself that. Would
Yeah,
they?
that's the thing. And I mean, if you're going by QBs, the only one that really knows who their quarterback is going to be is T. Higgins, I would say.
Yeah. And T. Higgins is great. He averaged 18 points, just over 18 points per game. He started off a little slow because he wasn't as involved until like week 3, but after that he was solid. And I'm kind of wanting to say T. Higgins, but I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb. I just his athleticism alone is what makes him is relevant, even when he didn't have. You got to think he finished our wide receiver 25 with like a terrible quarterback situation. They were like pounding the rock with Zeke, and everyone knew what to expect out of their offense. And still, CeeDee Lamb finished among top 25 receivers, and this factors in tight ends, by the way. So that's receivers and tight ends thrown into the mix, and he finished 25 still. I got to go CeeDee Lamb for dynasty play. Maybe if we're talking the short term, I would go T. Higgins here. Just because, like you said, Jordan, he's probably got the safest quarterback situation, and I felt like, especially throughout the middle part of the year, T. Higgins really put it on and looked great.
Yeah, and he's going to be my pick to take in this. I'm going to go with T. Higgins, and mostly because the reason we said he's the only one that seems like he has what most believe is a franchise quarterback in place. Um, and with the subtraction of AJ Green to that roster, I would think his targets would only increase, and T. Higgins is looking to put on a show next year. So yeah, I would go with T. Higgins, and then I'd probably, man, probably roll with Lamb just off a pure skill set. But I'm a big fan of Claypool just on his style of play. Um, just one of them.
He's a big guy.
Yeah, big possession receivers. I loved him coming into the draft. Um, he's got one of the better nicknames in the league too. They call him Mapletron. Being from Canada, I like that. Uh, so yeah, but I'll roll with T on that, and
Yeah.
we'll wrap that up for the receivers.
Yeah, Chase Claypool and T. Higgins remind me a lot of each other. I think it's just the size alone. Like they're both 6'3", 6'4". I want to say actually are they both 6'4"? T. Higgins. Am I right? He's
He,
6'4", 210. I'm looking at it now.
yeah,
They're both like the same. Yeah, he's 6'4", 210, but Chase Claypool 6 foot
Claypool's a
4
little
and
thicker.
227. Yeah,
Yeah, T runs a little smoother.
he does. T's got more. I'd have to look at their 40 times. I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but I feel like T's a little bit faster than Chase, but Chase has got the size.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
we got to get some defensive linemen going here.
Ooh, and I like these too. So for the D line, we have reigning defensive rookie of the year Chase Young of the Washington football team. I almost said it. And then next up, uh, my boy, Mr. Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers versus Quinn Williams. And who Quinn is with the Jets still,
That's
or
right. Yep, he's still a
okay, yeah.
Jet.
Quentin is a Jet, and so Chase Young, Brian Burns, Quinn Williams.
Man, and they're so all three of them are so different. Like when I picked these three, Jordan, I probably couldn't have picked three more different defensive linemen in terms of the way they play, their style, their size. Uh, they're very different. Chase Young is just a freak of nature at 6'5", 265, and the speed that he has is just incredible. I think whereas you go and you look at Brian Burns, and it's like, how can I? It's like Slender Man coming after you. This long, lanky mother effer, just like hands everywhere. Like every play, he's literally about to get a strip sack, basically. I
Blazing
mean,
speed.
6'5", 250, and then with Quinn Williams, man, he's basically a defensive tackle in that 3-4 defense. At 6'3", 303. He's a big boy, to say the least. I mean, he really exploded in his sophomore season. He had 7 sacks, 32 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 2 passes defended, and he had 10 tackles for loss. I mean, he was everywhere, and he still on top of this, missed 3 games throughout the year. I mean, he was great, man. I mean, you got to look at Quinn. I know he's not pretty because in IDP leagues, guys mostly want to go after the Chase Youngs and the Brian Burns because they're faster. But Quinn Williams is literally, his size alone is what makes him so disruptive. It almost reminds me of like a bigger Aaron Donald to a certain degree. Like because he's got Aaron Donald by 20 pounds. He's 2 inches taller, but realistically, in production standpoint, he's pretty much just as good. He averaged 24.5 points per game. He was defensive lineman 18 in our league. Chase Young was defensive lineman 12 in our league, averaged 22.7 points per game. Brian Burns was defensive lineman 6 in our league, averaged 24.3 points per game. Jordan, this is tough for me. This is really tough because if I look at average, like Quinn Williams, man, is right there with them both. And there's a good chance he stays that way going forward too.
Yeah. I mean, that's a trio right there. And if they ever so happen to got to play with each other,
Oh
I
my
would feel
gosh.
sorry for every offensive
I
line.
know, dude.
But yeah, I think it's really splitting hairs. And me personally, I would give the slight edge to Brian Burns. And I would put Chase Young right on his heels, and I would put Quentin Williams right on his heels. And they're all young, and the reason I would go with Brian Burns is just overall, I would think, and maybe this is just me being hopeful as a Carolina fan, he would have a few more splash plays than the other two to really bolster his totals over the next couple years in a dynasty play.
Yeah.
But Chase Young is about the same thing, man. Like he's gonna go after turnovers and get them, and but I'll say Brian Burns for the next few years.
Brian Burns came up with 9 sacks, 4 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 8 tackles for loss, and 35 tackles. He missed 0 games. Sorry, take that back. He missed Week 17 versus Saints, which really didn't matter for the Panthers at least. But Brian Burns, like if I'm saying who's my favorite player as a fan, Brian Burns by far, because I'm a diehard Panthers fan and
Yeah.
he's a freak of nature. But for IDP purposes and dynasty purposes, my number one here is Chase Young. You can say there's some bias because I have him in our fantasy league, but with Ron Rivera, man, he just knows how to produce defensive players in the NFL and all-star defensive players at that. And I just think Chase Young went all out rookie season. I feel like it could only get better for him, even with the injuries that he had kind of towards the beginning to middle parts of the season. So he was kind of playing banged up for a good bit. He had 7.5 sacks, 4 passes defended. He had 4 forced fumbles. He had 3 fumble recoveries. He had 10 tackles for loss and 32 tackles. And you got to think, 10 tackles for loss isn't that much compared to the guys we just talked about, I feel like. I don't know. I love me some Chase Young, and I love me some Ron Rivera. And the Washington football team has got the guy, I feel like, for dynasty defensive lineman. And I would put Brian Burns, obviously, number 2. But Quinnen Williams, trust me when I say this, he needs to be on your IDP draft board when you're going to get defensive lineman. He is definitely a guy you should be looking at drafting and keeping.
I agree.
Cool.
All right, so next up we have the linebacker battle. Starting off with Zach Cunningham of the Houston Texans, Blake Martinez of the New York Giants, and Joe Schobert of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
This is interesting, Jordan. This is interesting right here because you know me, I'm a big Blake Martinez and Joe Schobert fan. I literally talk nothing but I just nonstop, just running their names all day long. And when we're talking IDP, like those are my boys right there. But Zach Cunningham had a career season, finished as the best linebacker in our league. Had 582 total points. He had 106 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. He had one forced fumble. He had 3 sacks and 2 passes defended, no interceptions. So it wasn't a guy that was getting off, splash plays. He was a pure tackler, pure tackling machine. And part of that was the fact that Houston really couldn't stop anyone this year. So Zach had to be the guy to make the stops. Whereas you go look at Blake Martinez, traditionally, that's how he's gotten it done too. But this year, I feel like he did a little bit more with 3 sacks, a pick, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. He had 86 total tackles and with the Giants. And you got to think, the Giants just have better defensive players, I feel like, than Green Bay does in some areas. I know that sounds foreign to a lot of people right now, but I'm talking about like Jabril Peppers as safety. He racks up a ton of tackles, especially when you're talking to IDP purposes. That's going to hurt your production, but Blake Martinez finishes the 4th best linebacker. Joe Schobert finishes the 5th, and their averages were all within 2 points of each other per game. So we're talking, peanuts difference here. Joe Schobert, 84 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 3 picks, 2.5 sacks, 4 passes defended. Definitely one of the best seasons ever for Joe. I don't know, Jordan. For me personally, if I'm talking dynasty play, I really like, Joe Schobert is currently 27 years old, 5 years in the league. Blake Martinez is 27 years old, 5 years in the league. Zach Cunningham is 26 years old. No, hang on. I've lost my track.
I believe he is.
Yeah, 26 years old, 4 years in the league. He's even younger. Am I crazy to say that I like Zach Cunningham out of these 3 going forward?
No, you're not crazy. I would put Zach as my number 2. So that shows you I respect him. Like you said, I don't think Houston's defense is going to be that good again. and somebody's got to get the ball carrier on the ground. So I could see Zach Cunningham having another good year in that regards. Um, but yeah, my pick for this though would be Blake Martinez, and the main reason I say that is honestly I love the youth that the Giants have on their defense, particularly their defensive line, and I feel like great defensive lines, especially their interior, is what keeps bodies off of linebackers and lets them be available to make those plays. Um, so over a dynasty period, my choice would be Blake Martinez, followed up by Zach Cunningham, and that's no disrespect to Joe Schobert. I love him too,
No,
but he would be my third.
it's not right for anyone to not disrespect Joe Sherbert. You got to, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
he is the league's trash can. Like, I feel like everyone like sleeps on Joe Sherbert every year. Not that he's never kept or drafted relatively early, but usually there's 2 or 3
yeah,
linebackers that go before Joe does. When sometimes Joe's really probably the best one you can get.
yeah.
So it's just not right for us to
The,
say Joe's number one. Just not right.
the Giants' defensive line is Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Thomason, and Leonard Williams, and those are just three massive bodies to
Yeah,
keep offensive linemen off of linebackers. So
yeah. And now that you say that, realistically, with Houston losing J.J. Watt, that actually might hurt Zach Zach
yeah, I
Cunningham
can
to
see
some
it,
degree.
but I just don't see anybody else on the defense making many stops. Maybe Justin Reed in the secondary.
Yeah, Justin Reed's gonna, I feel like, be more involved this season. I think a lot of players are. Houston's getting
Yeah.
gutted. They really are. Um,
Hopefully they get gutted one more time. Wink, wink.
I agree there. Oh man, you ready to go to our last position?
Yep. Last position of the night, we got defensive back. We got Jordan Poyer of the Buffalo Bills, Jesse Bates of the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm blanking on his name, Buda Baker of the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh, this is good. I mean, you literally picked the top 3 guys. Jordan Poyer finishes at RDB1, Buda Baker number 2, Jesse Bates number 3. Their averages were within 4 points of each other. Buda Baker averaged 40 points, just over 40 points per game. Jordan Poyer, 39.6. Jesse Bates, 36. So obviously the storyline here is Jesse Bates was probably the healthiest among them. Well, I guess Jordan Poyer didn't miss a game either, but Buda Baker did miss a game. And that's what really hurt him. And that's really the only reason probably why he didn't finish number 1. For me, dynasty purpose wise, we talked about like interior linemen and them making a difference for linebackers. It also helps, especially for box safeties. And I really feel like, honestly, Jordan Poyer is the one who has that down and pat. I mean, they've got a good linebacking core. They've got a good front four. Um, Buffalo's just got a good defense. So you got a really good team, actually. And I think Jordan Poyer is just continually the guy for IDP purposes. He's currently 8 years in the league. He's 29 years old. I get it. We're probably looking at the later half of his dynasty relevance. Whereas Jordan Poyer's 4 years in, he's 25 years old. Very, very bright future ahead of him as an athlete, whether or not he's in Arizona or not. And then Jesse Bates, 3 years in the league. He's 23 years old. Same type of deal on a very young Cincinnati team. I would probably, out of these guys, in my opinion, I'm going to go Buda Baker at number 2.
Leaving Bates as your three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my one, especially keeping in age factors for the dynasty, like you said, my one would be Buda. I feel like he plays enough in the box to get those tackles, and he's got a propensity to go make a turnover. So I really like Buda Baker. I'll put Jordan Poyer 2 and Jesse Bates at 3, but Jesse Bates is still a really strong player. Um, I've seen Buffalo and Arizona being potential landing spots for J.J. Watt. So that'd be interesting if he landed in either one of those areas, what it would do to either one of their productions. Uh, but yeah, that would be my three.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, well, that's all we got, y'all. That's it. That's our dynasty play.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
guess I should have said that in the beginning league news, but yeah, J.J. Watt, multiple defensive player of the year, released from the Houston Texans. So he's able to immediately sign with a new team. Um, and the
he
pick he,
actually just signed just now, like while we were recording the show. I just saw
oh yeah,
the Panthers tweeted, yeah, they signed him.
oh yeah,
No, I'm just
Mr.
kidding.
Sarcastic.
I'm just kidding. No, he is not signed.
Somebody's scrambling right now.
Oh man. Well, guys, that's it for week 7. We're officially 2 weeks. Yeah, right. 2 months into our off season, starting next week. So it's gonna be a blast, like Jordan said. Payments coming up this weekend. I'm gonna have the next round of voting for league rule changes out. I'll also be sure to share that with you guys, kind of what we got going so far with league rule changes. If you guys got any questions, though, let me know, let Jordan know, and we'll catch you guys in week 8. See ya.
See you around, guys.